Hello, everyone. We're live. Great. All right. Today, I have Mauro Casellini with me, and he's the CEO of Bitcoin Suisse Liechtenstein and head of Europe. And I'm super excited to have you here, Mauro, and dive into some of the questions that I have for you and into your story and talk about all things digital business. So, Mauro, welcome to the show. And yeah, maybe you can say a few words about yourself, a little bit about Bitcoin Suisse so people have an idea of the cosmos you're floating in.
Pleasure to be a part of your podcast. Thank you, Daniel. Yes, I'm Mauro Casellini. I'm the CEO of Bitcoin Suisse in Liechtenstein. Bitcoin Suisse itself is a blockchain financial service provider based in the crypto valley in Zug. We were founded in 2013, so it's one of the oldest blockchain financial service providers in the world. We have at the moment more than 250 employees, are based in Zug, Liechtenstein, Slovakia, and Denmark, or there in Slovakia and Denmark, we have two IT departments with some IT staff. We focus on services of the brokerage of cryptocurrencies, custody, and also staking services. And I would say we focus on bigger clients that are willing to invest more than 100K of their assets in the cryptocurrencies. For them, we have very special solutions with relationship managers. So it's not like where if you have an account with Binance or Kraken that you just interact with the exchange in a digital way. You can call your relationship manager. He can help you if you have an issue. It's a very personal and close relationship that we have with our clients.
Thanks for sharing. Cool. So let's dive right in. So Mauro, first question that I always love to ask is, if you had to sum up your essence into one word, what would that word be and why?
Passion, because everything I do, if it's in private life, if it's in sport, if it's in work, I do it with passion. I always give 100% or 0%. It's for me very important that what I do fulfills me personally and that I have passion for it. So yes, passion is, I would say, a really good word to summarize that on my side.
I want to dive a little bit more into what you said about 0 and 100. I find that really interesting. Maybe we can dive a little bit more into that. Talk to me more about what is it, or first of all, what do you mean when you say you give 100% or 0? And yeah, what does that mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good point, and I would also say that's how I lead people. It's I always focus on the strength of my colleagues and not the weaknesses. So I always try to make the best of what you're already good at and make it stronger, because I believe that people are in some tasks very, very good, and in some tasks not that great, and therefore they should focus on what they're good at and not what they are average in. And that's therefore all my personal life. I focus on what I'm good at, what brings happiness to myself. If it's, for example, in sport, it's CrossFit and it's golf, two completely different things, but it's two things I'm really passionate about it that helps me a lot to get rid of stress, and therefore I love that. And when I'm doing sport, I'm really pushing it to the limits, because it makes no sense that I'm 2 hours in the gym and do nothing. I'm happy to be there 40 minutes, but really get exhausted, sweat a lot, and be completely wasted afterwards. And so that's everywhere else in work. I focus on tasks that I know I'm good at, and not where I know, okay, I need to learn this, and that, and need to speak with 10 people. There I look for the right guys to do it. And that's, I would say that's, yeah, my whole life. It's a 1 or 0 or 100% and 0 life I try to live.
I love that. I mean, I so much resonate with this. I often say, like, there's only one thing I can do really well, and I'm really bad at everything else. And, I think that's probably not the case for every person, but for me, I'm just an extreme case maybe. And, I had to find my way through that, right? Because it's different when you're sort of like a generalist, and it's different when you're just like super, super, super special in one kind of thing. So I totally resonate with what you say there when it comes to strengths and weaknesses and 100% or 0. That's why I wanted to dive more into that. Now, let's talk about success. I'm curious, what is your personal definition of success?
It's a good question, and it goes again in the direction of the word passion. If you can do something that you like and that you're passionate about in your life, especially in the work life, you are successful. So in a work perspective, for me, it's not something I define with money or with how many people you lead or which role you have in a company. It's if you do something that you like and you're passionate about it, you are very successful. And you're way more successful than the guy that earns millions but is not happy in his job. Same in private life. You are successful if you do something you like. In sport, you do not need to be the fastest marathon runner. You need to be happy about what you're doing. And if you run the New York Marathon and you have 5.5 hours, or even 6 hours, or 3 hours, it does not even count. It's not important. It's you have done something that you like. You have succeeded, and therefore you're successful. You're passionate about it. You love what you do. And for me, that's success.
I love what you said about passion there. I mean, obviously it goes very much to your core, because I find like when you're truly passionate about something, especially about something that you're really good at, ideally, right? Um, Passion pays into that cup, meaning that you may get engaged into something because you're passionate and you really enjoy it, and it's something that you're really good at, and therefore you give 100%. It's
Mhm.
really hard to give more, right? Because mathematics and stuff. But let's just say you really give 100% there, you become better, and then you give that 100% again, and you become better, and that's
Mhm.
how you pretty much become the best at whatever you do. So I think these ingredients are incredibly important. And
Mhm.
talking about passion and doing what you love, I'm also curious to just like dive more into that a little bit. When are you happiest? Like, is there a certain activity that you engage in? Is there a certain moment that you create, or moments that you create when you're happiest? Or when are you happiest?
It's a good question, and I think many people will have their specific task. Like, yes, when I'm climbing a mountain or whatsoever. But for me, it's really it's my life, my actual life situation. I love my work. I love what I can do in my private time with sport and everything, and especially I love time with my family, with my two kids, with my wife, and all of that makes me very happy. And I always also there focus on the positive and not the negative thing. So yes, definitely at work, not everything is perfect. At sport, I do not always can do what I would like to do. I'm not able to lift whatever weight. I'm blocked there at a certain level, but that's fine. I'm still happy. With the family, it's the same. I have two kids, 2.5 years and 6 months. So sleep is not that perfect at the moment, but I love my life. I'm very happy with what I'm doing, and my whole life situation where I live in Liechtenstein and everything makes me happy. And I really can really say, and I think not many people get that by themselves because many people on the focus also on the negative side. But I can really say I'm 100% happy with my life and my situation. There is not a specific task where I can say that makes me happy. The whole situation, the whole package makes me happy.
One thing I really believe that also contributes to that happiness that you have is the lightness, because there's a certain lightness that I feel about you going through
Mhm,
life and
mhm,
going through
mhm,
things. There's a certain way you approach life and you approach things. A lightness is maybe the right word for it, or
mhm,
maybe not taking yourself too serious, or like taking things too serious in a certain terms of like you know just like, yeah, just not just certain lightness to it.
mhm.
I think that has a big impact as well on that.
Yeah, and that's a good point, and that's definitely something I had to learn when I was a teenager. I was always focusing, oh, yeah, but if I do this, will that work out? And if I do that, will that work out? And I'm not the best guy in sports. What should I do to be better? And I learned that I do not have to care. I'm a person that needs to focus on myself, that needs to be happy from the core. And this lightness is the right word. And the happier I am and the more focused on the positive side, the happier is everything around me and the happier is my family because I'm not stressed. The happier I'm at sports because I can focus on the sport, and the more successful I'm at work because I can focus on the work and I'm happy with what I'm doing. And I'm not thinking about other things. I'm not thinking about, oh, I have not done enough sport this week. No, I do not even care. I love my what I do at work. And yes, I will find time 6 o'clock in the morning or 10 o'clock in the evening to make sport. And that's what I love to do. And therefore, I have no problem to be up late or wake up early to do sport or what I like and what I love and what makes me happy.
Hmm. Thanks for sharing. I really love this part of the interview already. Now I want to talk a little bit more about the other side, like the
Mhm.
tough side of things. And I'm just curious when it comes to decisions, tough decisions. What would you say is like one of the most difficult decisions that you ever had to make throughout your career?
Hmm. It's a good question. Yeah, I think, phew, yeah, I would definitely say, and that was definitely a tough decision for me, but in the end, it was the best decision I ever have done. Is I studied part-time, worked in parallel at Graubündner Kantonalbank, and after I finished my studies there, it was like looking at where does my path go to, and it was still a situation where I have not seen everything so lightly. So it was like, okay, where do I go to? And then I looked for new jobs, for new opportunities at Graubündner Kantonalbank, but also outside of it. And then through a recruiter, I was approached to look at Bank Frick, a small private bank in Liechtenstein, back then 32 employees. And it was like, okay, I'm now at this Graubündner Kantonalbank, 1,000 employees, very stable, win every year many awards that they are one of the best employers in Switzerland. They're really great. And now I go to this small bank in Liechtenstein. How does that work out? What will I do there? The CEO or my future boss then told me, Mauro, I would like to have you, but I do not know what you will do in 3 months because yes, there will be many interesting projects, but I do not really know which project will be then the most important and you will focus on that. And I was like, okay, I try to do that. It was a tough decision to move on, to go out of my happy place where I know, yeah, it's all good and I do not have to care and everything works out and go there. But it was the best decision I've made because I had so many opportunities to learn a lot of new things, to build up new businesses, and in the end, ended up to build up the blockchain offering that Big Bankfreak has nowadays. And Bankfreak was back then, thanks to what I've done together with the CEO, the chairman, and the whole team I had there. We built up the first offering all over Europe to offer crypto assets as a bank to end clients. And that was definitely the best and the toughest decision I had until now to move out of this comfort zone at Graubündner Kantonalbank.
Thanks for sharing. It's funny what you said in the beginning when you said it was definitely one of my toughest decisions, but also one of the best ones. It's funny, right? Because looking forward, that's not clear, right? You don't know if it's going to be a good decision in a sense of like the best, or one of the best decisions you're going to make. But it's interesting, like when I talk to people and we talk about these tough decisions, very often, like tough decisions that truly come from within, something that you truly believe is the right thing, they often end up being pretty good decisions, no matter the outcome, no matter what happens. But because of that decision that is made out of a commitment, out of some inner drive, and therefore things open up and things happen that previously would not have happened.
Mhm.
It's a really
Yeah.
interesting statement that just
That's a
resonates a lot.
really good point there, and I think it's also important. Also, the same as passion is learning. Out of every decision, and especially every tough decision, you can learn a lot. Even as you say, if you have made the wrong decision, even then it helps you to learn something and do not do the same mistake the next time. So it's out of every decision you can learn a lot, and out of every tough decision, definitely even more.
Mm. Yeah, thanks for sharing. So I want to talk a little bit more about digital business, customer experience before we dive into the industry. Um, so from your perspective, what's your definition of great customer experience?
A great customer experience, definitely. Nowadays, it's something that's very important where you have a good user interface and therefore lead to a good user experience. For me, this topic of how people interact with an app or a website, that's nowadays very important because no one likes to go to the bank. Therefore, the user interface and therefore the user experience that goes out of it needs to be very good. And on the other side, and that's what I love also a bit about Bitcoin Swiss, the user experience does not end with the user interface or the web site or whatever. It ends then with interacting with the people. Like if I have a problem or have specific question I can ask, for example, at Bitcoin Swiss, what should I do there? That didn't work out. I do not have to interact with a really great user interface with a chatbot. That's horrible. That's a really bad user experience. So it's, especially in financial service, a mixture out of an amazing website, a good app where you can do everything, and the interaction with a human behind it. And that's also why, go back to my first big employer, to Graubünden Kantonalbank. That's amazing that they have a good online or their e-banking. Everyone accepts that, everyone needs that. But if I need to interact with someone, I have an amazing client manager there. I work with him for now more than 10 years. I'm very happy to ask him any question. That's a really great user experience. So web, digital channel, and the personal channel.
You know, I love that point. It just reminds me of an experience I had yesterday with my bank. You know, I wanted to send a larger sum of money that, you know, I had to approve. So I went into the app, wanted to send it, right? And I got a notification that I need to approve it. And there was an approve button. I clicked the button. What happened is it called the center, right, in the background. So I had it set up a call, you know, super fast. I had somebody on the line. And what really got me was like, you know, we've, you know, the identification things like, you know, where's your birthplace, and then what's your IBAN number? Like, how should I know? Like, you know, let me check. Let me figure this out. Let me go there. It just takes forever to go through these questions and everything. So we did that. And then in the middle of the conversation, he's like, so what we could do now is we could do a speech profile or like a language profile of you for the rest of the conversation, so you don't have to identify again whenever you call. I'm like, oh my God, I'm all in. Like, let's get rid of this forever, right? And it was such a smooth experience, also going from the app to the call center, you know, to then actually even going as far as like setting up something that's going to resolve the trouble of going through that identification process again and again and again and again in the future. So I'm all with you there.
But there is an important thing, and there is definitely one thing: data protection. So again, they now recorded what you say, and I really love it. And exactly, I'm on the same page as you. I love that. But on the other side, now you have the lawyer that will say, what's about data protection? Where is that voice saved? How can they reuse it? What's happening with that? There we can see that very often the regulation and experience are fighting against each other, and everyone tries to win the race. And we could be way better in all these digital experiences we have if there would not be some laws. But it's important that these regulation laws are there to protect us. So it's because the bad players will use it for not so legit things, but the good players are blocked in the user experience they could offer us.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's such a great point. And yeah, I think, you know, it's a two-edged sword, or how you, I don't know how you say it. On the one side, yes, you know, advancements could be so much faster, and so, you know, and so much faster, you know, we could also fall off the cliff, right? Without those things in place. So I guess it's like a two-edged sword, but I agree. Yeah, I mean, this is always a consideration, I think, or it's super important that both of these play together, ideally not against each other. That's probably the worst place to be, but that they play together, and there's a good balance. Cool. So one more thing I want to talk to you about when it comes to customer experience. You know, talking about customer experience with people, so it's a lightweighted topic. You know, it's like, it's clear, it's easy to define it. You know, everybody has, you know, more or less a similar impression of it. And still, looking out into the market every day, maybe it's just me, but every day I face really bad customer experiences here and there and here and there. So my question there is, like, from your perspective, I mean, what do you feel makes it really challenging for organizations to actually create great customer experience? We talked about regulation a little bit already, right? I think that's going in one direction. But just like hearing a bit more from you, what do you feel are some of the big challenges on the way to creating great customer experience?
I think it's also there. It's like companies need to be forced into the right direction. And a really, really great example is exactly Apple Pay. COVID was really, really a bad experience. I would be happy if that never happened, but that helped to skyrocket the digital payment in every single store. 2 years ago, I always had to have some 50 to 100 francs in cash with me. Now I think I do not even have my wallet with myself, and I always need to think, oh, where have I lost it? Then I use my AirTag to locate my wallet because I do not use it anymore. I have just my phone with me, and I pay everything with it. I can pay everywhere with it. 2 years ago, that was not possible, especially in Liechtenstein. About 30% or more of the stores was like, no, we are not a big, we do not have a terminal. We just accept cash. I was like, okay, I need to run to the ATM, grab some cash, come back. Horrible user experience. And for me, again, financial services, all with payments and everything is very essential. So the customer experience we got there was amazing, but we were forced to because, yes, people didn't like to interact with cash anymore because it could be full of COVID influenza, and yeah, you get it. So it's better to pay cash, cashless with your phone, and that's amazing. And it really skyrocketed there, and it's amazing what happened there. But we need to be forced to it. So something needs to happen that we need to do it, and then companies will do it very fast, but they will not get it by themselves because, like, yeah, but why should we offer that? Cash is fine, and we are happy with cash, and it's easy to walk every evening to the local bank, throw it in, and and have the cash gone. So it's
So motivation is really important in a
yeah.
sense of like, motivation and commitment in a sense of like the stick. The stick is probably very, very powerful there, that, to be driven to a certain place. Just reminds me like a couple of days ago, I was at the Christmas market in Zurich, and, I was at this raclette chalet or whatever. And, I walked in and I wanted to pay, and I saw at the wall something about cash only, whatever. And it's like, oh my God, no, really? And I read it better, and I was like, cashless only. I'm like, wow. I love it,
Yeah.
because before it was cash only, right? And now
Mhm.
suddenly it's something
Yeah.
like cashless only, which I'm
Yeah.
like, oh my
Yeah.
God, I love it. I'm
And
all
we
in.
love it, yes. But there again, we have the 70-year-old guy from Zurich that
Sure.
does not use his card, that would love to pay with cash. And for them, it's a bad user experience. So you cannot make everyone happy. That's the problem. But the good thing is even the olders now learned it, but it's still, they had a tough time to go away from their cash and use their credit card or their debit card or Apple Pay.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great point. You can't make something great for everyone. You gotta pick, gotta pick your audience, or let your audience pick you. Cool. So let's dive a little bit more, one more step into digital experiences or digital products or services. What do you feel like really makes or breaks digital experiences? Like, is there anything that you feel like from an organizational perspective, but also from a customer perspective, what are the things that make or break these experiences or products or services?
You have a lot of good questions today. What does make or break? I would really say there we go back to the word of the user interface, that it needs to be smooth. It should not be like, if I onboard with a bank digitally, I should not then like, okay, now you get an email. In the email, you need to open the link. The link will open with another provider that makes the video identification. It needs to be smooth. It needs to be in one interface. There needs to be no blocks in between. There should be no media change. So it should be in the web browser or in an app, and not like, just start there on, oh, the connection is bad, jump on the app, but you need to reconnect and wait another 10 minutes. So it's that's, for example, an experience. I really had a bad experience a few years ago where it was like the webcam was not good enough of the laptop, so I had to reconnect via the app from my smartphone. But I had to wait again 15 minutes to be connected with a new person. It was not like, okay, look, I send you a new link and you can use that link and we will be connected in a minute via the app. It's like this media break was really a horrible experience for myself. And that's for me a make or break. And yeah, I was definitely not happy and never used that account.
Yeah, I think I love that, you shared it on that level of granularity. It's a great example, the onboarding. And I think it's also a great example when we go back to regulation, right? Because there's a lot of paper stuff, and the PDFs you have to scroll through and then click accept, and all that stuff that just comes with compliance and regulation, which is maybe great, maybe not. It's there. It's, I think, important to a certain extent. Maybe we can reduce it. I don't know. But I think that's another great example of like, it's different for, a startup in a unregulated or very low regulated sector to do that, then let's just take the other example of an extreme than a traditional bank in the highly regulated financial sector to do it, right? So that's always an important
and there are like the way, like for example, we see it in Switzerland, but also in Europe. The example of, for example, Hypothekarbank Lenzburg with Neon. It's like we have this hyper-regulated bank that, yes, they were agile, they are fancy, they are good, but they were definitely not that great in a user interface and experience side. So they had this fintech that came up and was like, yeah, why should we run for an own fintech license? We can use this bank and more or less open up a new onboarding tool and user interface for them, but we will use their license. So where a fancy fintech but still traditional bank can interact with a very modern agile fintech, that's a huge benefit in the area of financial services. So really learn what you're good at, focus on your core, and work on the right sides with the right partners. And that's for everything. That's for banking. But that's also if you need to store a lot of data for your clients or whatsoever, most probably it's nowadays better to use a cloud service provider like Amazon or Azure from Microsoft, and not host your own servers. For some use cases, very important, very good. For others, not. So you should focus on what you're good at and outsource the rest to experts.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great example. Thanks for sharing. Yes, very good example. And let's talk a little bit more about the industry. Crypto. Where do we stand today? Where do you feel like in the bigger picture scale of things? Where did we end up today, and where are we moving in the near or midterm future?
So at the moment, we're definitely in a bearish sentiment, in a bearish market where people are a little bit scared what's happening with the future. Again, many points like, oh, it's Bitcoin dead, blah, blah, blah. But especially because we had more than a month ago a really, really, really bad event in the space. That was when FTX, or better Sam Bankman-Fried, the CEO of FTX, or FTX fell down, and it was, or nowadays we have to assume that he used client funds to give it to a third party, and they lent it out, they hedged it, or they leveraged it, and a lot of money got lost. And that was again because of not existing regulation, because they were offshore, they had no regulation there. So it had nothing to do with crypto, but now crypto has again this bad face on it. And it's like, oh, look what happened there. But it was a financial crime, it was fraud, nothing else. And we will now see that, what really was behind it. But that's the problem. Events like that show that we need to move forward on a regulatory side. We need to have regulation. Switzerland, for example, is amazing. We have, with the so-called DLT law, already a law in Switzerland. We have a law in Liechtenstein. We have on the European level, next year will be their markets in crypto assets. MiCA, it's like MiFID, but or FIDLAG in Switzerland, for crypto assets. And that will change the regulatory framework dramatically, and it will allow companies that are regulated in Europe and have a license in Europe to passport their services all over Europe in the same regulatory framework. And that will help the space to grow, because, for example, at the moment we have a problem, for example, in Germany. They are very regulated, and every crypto asset is a financial instrument. So even if you have an IoT device that communicates with a center and sends some tokens in and out, that's a financial instrument, and that does not work. So we need to have another framework there, that there are so-called utility tokens that are really utilities and not money or not financial instruments. And I think a lot of things will, with this regulation, happen. We will grow, and I'm very positive that in a year, 2 or 3, we will definitely be in a bullish sentiment again. Markets will go up, but especially, and that's more important for me also than prices, we will see a lot of use cases that are really there. Nowadays, it's still not that much that is really used out there. We have Bitcoin as store of value and a medium of exchange. We have Ethereum as the infrastructure of the future of the internet, from my perspective, of the Web3, where a lot of decentralized applications will run on directly on the Ethereum blockchain or on a second layer. And we will see a huge growth in that area because many projects, many big companies, still with what happened with FTX and other berry sediments at the moment, are building things on it. So many big companies are still announcing, yes, we now focus on this use case on a blockchain because it helps us with this and that. So we will see more and more use cases and less hot air and less money to the moon. We will see use cases, we will see good things, and we will see hopefully more regulation that will help the companies to offer their services and not to block them like it's nowadays.
Thanks for sharing. Yeah, it's really interesting. Like, what has happened, like what I recently read as well, when it comes to the collapse of FTX and, other things that happened in the market that, some of the more regulated entities have actually benefited quite a bit because that money needs to go somewhere, right? And, that safe haven, maybe it's Switzerland, right? Maybe it's the more regulated space, I think has such a strong place, even of, sometimes we talk about, decentralized finance on the one side, right? Where it's like unregulated and, just like the utopian dream of decentralization and everything with no regulation and, the perfect world set up. And on the other side, the more centralized players, the crypto banks, basically, right? And the asset managers that are much, much more regulated, basically. And I think it's just an interesting moment in time also to see that everybody, there's a space for everyone, and there's a need for all of this, everything. And it's not either this or that. No, it's always both, I believe. And it's also going to be like that in the future.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I love about the space. It will not be fully decentralized. It makes no sense that some people store their own private keys by themselves, that store the key to their assets by themselves. There will be crypto banks, there will be regulated custodians, there will be centralized players that will offer access to a more decentralized world. And therefore, we will see less intermediaries. I'm quite sure we will lose a lot of roles that are out there nowadays and cost millions, if not billions. All the companies in the world will be gone, but we will still see central intermediaries for the people that would like to have central intermediaries. We will have more economical freedom that you can decide if you would like to do it by yourselves or through your bank or whatsoever. And that's what I like. It's up to the people to decide what to do. And in the end, we will have regulation on it. So even if you do it by yourself, there will be some system behind it that will take care that you pay your taxes, that which assets you held are communicated with regulated entities. And the question is it good or not? I'm not here to answer that, but it will happen. We will have regulation. We will have communication between this technology and providers that need to know the information. And we cannot fight it. If we fight it, we will lose the fight.
Yeah. Before we wrap up, I want to hear a bit more about what does the future hold for Bitcoin Suisse? Where's Bitcoin Suisse heading in the future? What's the bigger picture vision there?
Yes, that's also, for example, something we communicated, or Dirk Klee, the group CEO, communicated a few weeks ago. Bitcoin Suisse is working on a banking license in Switzerland. So we also there would like to go down the regulated route. Already nowadays, we are AML regulated under the VQF in Switzerland. We are there since 2013. We know what we do. We definitely do not play with client funds. We keep them all separated. We know how that should be done and how it needs to be done in Switzerland. And we need now to grow a step further. And it's not our goal to be a bank that offers crypto. Bitcoin Suisse is really the goal to still be the blockchain financial service provider, in some areas even the pioneer. And to offer these services in the future, you need to have a license like a banking license. The same will then go in the direction of other markets, like for instance the EU, where we also will go down the road of this so-called MiCA already, this markets and crypto assets regulation, where you can license yourself in the future as a so-called CASP, a crypto asset service provider. So also there, regulation and a license will be essential for us. So we see definitely the need of licensed entities in the whole framework. We work on that, we focus on that, and we would like to offer our clients the highest level of security, not just on how we behave, because that's was always our focus, but also on the regulatory side that they know, okay, this counterparty, they are trustworthy, they are there for more than 9 years now, in a year it will be 10 years, will be a great jubilee. And therefore we focus on that to show the client on every single level we could show it to him that we are trustworthy, that we are on the highest level of regulation where we could be. And that's the goal, to be one of the regulated, clean, local providers and not one of these offshore, unregulated, shaky providers. We do not really know what they are doing.
Thanks for sharing. Now I want to end it off with a really big picture question. So let's imagine you're 80 years old now, and you're looking back at your life and everything that has happened, in the world and how the world has changed. At that point, looking back at your life, what would you love to see changed? What's the change that you would love to see in the world?
Sorry, I had now a bad connection. You need to repeat the question. Sorry,
No
it
worries.
was like the
No
sound was
worries.
bad.
No worries. No problem. So I just asked, so let's imagine now you're 80 years old and you're looking back at your life and everything that had happened in the world and how the world has changed. At that moment in time, looking back, what's the change that you would love to see in the world?
I think it's a change that's now even happening, and that's why I am in the space in the industry I am. More decentralization, going away from all these intermediaries that block us, make everything slow, expensive, and risky. We need to know that this is nowadays with all these intermediaries. Yes, it's fully regulated, but there are many risks in between because every single entity can go out of business. And if one of these intermediaries in between goes out of business, everyone will lose money, everyone will have problems, everyone will have a lot of work. If we have a more decentralized world where I can decide with which person or company I would like to interact, and I know that this company interacts with the technology and they directly communicate with the third party, that's a world I would love to be in and definitely should happen for the future.
Beautiful. Thank you, Mauro. Really appreciate your insights today, the story that you shared, and all the wisdom and great perspectives and insights. Thank you so much for being here with us. And see you hopefully soon.
Yeah, thank you very much. It was really, really pleasure from my side, and I love to listen to all your other talks and also definitely love to listen to them in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mauro.